Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, come in, come in. Get on in here, y'all. All right. This is Tamika's Den. I am Tamika, and this is Snowfall. All right. This is Lion in a Hammock. All right. Season 5, episode 7. And we start out this episode with Franklin Leon, coming and talking to Louie and Jerome and putting them up to speed with what's going on so far, the conversation that they have with Kane. And Leon essentially basically wants to be able to, go and sit down, have a chance to talk with Kane, see if he can work things out with him. And of course, Jerome and Louis is not understanding this, right? And, Leon is saying if we don't, come to some type of agreement, this is going to be war. And Jerome says we're already at war. And I understand where Jerome is coming from with this. But of course, Leon is in a different space and, in his life going in another direction now, right? We've been seeing the changes with him. And not only that, they kind of feel like, all right, well, we did kill his brother, right? We didn't mean to, but he got killed. And we didn't even look out for his family. And we at least got to give this, a chance. And so, like I said, Louis and Jerome is definitely not, you know, responding to this well. They don't agree. And, basically Jerome, of course, is still stuck on Peaches saying, did they hear anything about him? And, Franklin is saying no. He thinks that it's actually two separate incidences and that Peaches just wanted the money, right? And so, he was like, when they asked, Kane about it, he didn't really seem to know about it. And so they said they don't want to do anything yet. And of course, Jerome is like, am I still drunk? Are y'all bugging? You telling me you're not going to hit back on Kane? And Leon was like, the score. Kane will put everything out there. We'll get hit hard and there'll be a big war. And like I said, of course, Jerome is like, we already in a war. And so, Leon is saying he basically helped raise them. And, they have that connection with him. It was like family, all right? And so, of course, Jerome is just like, listen, we need to handle this. And Leon tells them they have two options. They can deal with him as a family, and if he don't want to do that, then Leon says he will take his whole crew out himself. He don't got a problem with that. But he want to make sure that he at least try this first. He was like, at the end of the day, he do have a legitimate beef. And so Louis is like, well, you real quiet over there for once. What you thinking about this? And Franklin says, me and Leon already had this conversation in the car. I told him that I would at least give him a chance. At this point, is really just letting him tell, Leon tell them how he's feeling and what the plan is out of respect, right? Because they already had the conversation. And so basically, he was like, look, my mother was shot at, my unborn baby could have been hurt. You don't think I'm upset about this? He was like, if it was anybody else, it wouldn't even be no talking. But because it's Kane, it's delicate, and he at least wants to give this a chance. If he says that he's gonna give this a try, then I'm gonna at least let him try. And so, in the meantime, Jerome is like, he's gonna go and find, Peaches. Of course, that's still Jerome's number one priority. And, that's basically what he's going to do. And so, again, Louis asks, and if he don't, and Leon says, like I said, I will take care of this myself. I don't know that this is the best plan. Like, some things, like Kane said, cannot be talked out, y'all. Okay, this makes me very, very nervous. I don't necessarily know that is a good plan, but I do understand why, Leon is attempting to do this, okay? So you have Oso talking to Teddy, right? And he's basically telling him, actually, he came and picked him up first, and Parissa was asking if he needed his wounds fixed on his face. He says he's fine. So she was like, oh, you sound a lot like him. He apparently called Oso to come and pick him up. And then she's telling Teddy that there's a risk of infection and acting like she's also concerned about him or whatever the case may be. And he says thank you, and he gives her a bag which I'm assuming is basically, the money that he told her that he would give her. And so she tells him that she looked in his wallet while he was unconscious and she seen that his real name is Theodore. And that Theodore actually fits him better and is a nice name or whatever the case may be than Thomas, which was of course what she knew him as. And so I'm sure she done looked through way more than that, but this chick is knowing too much and she crazy on top of it, so I can definitely see this not being so well on Teddy's part, okay? And so you have Franklin come to the office and you have Veronique on the phone saying we're asking for 48 hours. She's like, yeah, I understand. And when she gets off the phone, of course, she's updating Franklin, now there's an issue with this property that they've been trying to get supposedly anyway, because I don't believe half of what Veronique is saying at this point. And she's saying that, they got to try to see if they could get this extension. And if they can't, then they would end up reopening the bid without them and they would basically lose it. And, she was like, she got a banker friend and maybe she could go ahead and try to figure out she's going to handle the bankers and stuff like that. And so he sees that she looks like she's getting some type of discomfort. He asking her, she okay? She says, yes, it's just cramps. That she spoke to the doctor on the phone because he was saying, do I need to go ahead and, take you to the hospital or anything? And she said, all they really could do is wait it out. And she was telling him it was delicate. And so he's like, what do you mean delicate? She was like, well, after 12 weeks, then it's a little bit more safe. Right now, I could be in jeopardy of having a miscarriage. Of course, Franklin is like, miscarriage? What the heck are you talking about? We're supposed to be having a baby. And he was like, you got to take it easy. And he sits her down. And so she was saying, at the same time, his page is going off every daggone minute. She asking who that is, and it's Teddy. And she's like, oh, CIA Teddy, the one that could end up killing you, Teddy. If it's not the gangsters, it could be him. And he was like, you sound like my mother. And she was like, really? The last thing you want to say to a woman you with is that they're sounding like, your mother. And he was like, I'm serious. Did she say something to you? So Franklin has already caught on that mama has said something, all right? And she's telling him just take care of his end and she will take care of hers. She never answers him about the question he asked about whether Sissy said anything to her or not. And of course, Franklin's phone is still going off like crazy. We then get Teddy and Oso in the car. And he's saying, somebody knew about all three jobs and this had to be an inside job. Which, yes, it was. And, Oso saying couldn't say. And he was like, they even went back to the club and they, was everywhere. And so then, Oso is mentioning to him that Franklin mom took care of his face. And he was like, she cleaned up everything. And then Teddy talking about whose mother? And then he's like, Franklin's, And so I don't think he did that on purpose. But now this lets Teddy know that Franklin mom is back in town. All right. And so he gets out the car and, Franklin is saying, damn, all of us look bad. I don't know who looks worse. And then he's basically saying hi to Oso and, Teddy asked him what happened. And he was like, well, it was an inside job. He basically says it has to do with Peaches. He didn't tell him anything about Kane. He was like, nobody saw it coming. And so Teddy talking about, oh, this is sloppy as hell. Things is getting out of hand. He was like, you bringing strangers to a drop. And, Franklin says he's from Mossad and he's, using, I had to update my security. I can't take no chances. He's like, oh, well, is he intelligence? Do you got his background? The guy looking at him funny. And so he was like, Franklin said, I messed up, but I'm going to fix this. I'm going to take care of it. I'm on the top of it. And so, Teddy telling him, oh, he can't trust nobody and that, we got to make some changes around here. And from now on, when it's going to be meets, he'll call him like a couple of minutes before with the time and locations and he'll come alone with no one else. And so Franklin is like, yo, I need security. And he going to talk about I'll be your security. And like, no, Teddy, we don't trust you to be securing any damn thing because you ran off. All right. And so Franklin is saying, why don't you send Oso? Why don't you let me get somebody else? And he's like, no, from here on out, it's going to be the way that I say it's going to be. And, things is getting out of hand. You two hold high profile. And then he started asking him about the new project that he want to get. And he was like, yeah, that's from my mom's legitimate business. He was like, and that's another thing. Your mother's back, I see. And he was like, yeah, she's decided it was time. And he was like, my mother's real estate businesses and everything is not connected to this. He talking about everything is connected. Open your eyes. And he was like, the real estate companies and stuff like that is all over. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not, Teddy. You hating. And so he's telling him to pull out the deal. And Franklin was like, no, it's too late for that. This is a go, okay? That would be too much attention. And he's like, well, finish that off, but no more high profile buys, okay? I don't care if you buy anything in the ghetto. Okay, be my guest, but you can't do anything else more. And so Teddy is trash, and I just cannot wait for them to freaking kill him. But he asked, Franklin, do he understand? And he's like, uh-huh. I just want him to go, okay? Teddy got to go, point blank, period. And so, of course, Franklin walks off, pissed off like that MF, And so you have Jerome looking for Peaches at the VA hospital, right? And he comes in, he lets them know we worried about our friend, we looking for our friend, his family is worried about him, nobody has seen him in about a week, okay? And at first the nurse is like, well, we can't. First the nurse asked his, name and stuff like that. And of course Jerome took him on Peaches, like they supposed to know him by that. And then he gives his government name or whatever the case may be. And, she was saying, of course, that's against HIPAA. She can't give out info. Jerome slides her some money. And all of a sudden she talking about, oh, well, he did see the doctor last week in the back office. Okay, Dr. Evans. And so, Jerome goes to walk back there, and he's knocking at the doctor's door and trying to ask him about, Peaches. And you could tell that the doctor's like in the middle of a lunch break, and he's telling him, you got to make an appointment, and if it's an emergency, then you got to go to the emergency room. And Jerome is like, no, actually, I'm just looking for a friend. And in the meantime, as these people are coming past, these two MTs with, a stretcher, the stretcher ends up hitting Jerome's hand. And of course, Jerome had beat the mess out of that guy's face until he literally, broke up his own daggone hand in the process. And so when they hit his hand, it hurt him real bad. I forgot about that for a minute. And so the doctor's asking him if he's okay. And he's basically like, yeah, I'm good. I'm okay. Don't worry about it. And then the doctor's like, no, come in. Let me take a look at it. So he actually does, look at Jerome's hand or whatever the case may be. And he was like, did you hit, a wall or a face? And Jerome is like, huh? And he was like, wall or a face, because, you got some stuff messed up here. And so Jerome is like, a face. And he's like, ah. And he was like, okay, well, the most that I could do is, wrap it and put a stent in the meantime. And Jerome tells him, thank you, or whatever the case may be. And so in the meantime, he's asking him, like, you said it was a friend that you're looking for. And Jerome is like, yeah. And he tells him, Peach's name. And he's describing him like he's tall, he's light-skinned, he got light eyes. Mind you, when he had first walked past to go to the doctor's office from the nurse, is a guy that's staring at him. So I was already getting nervous with that part. Like, who the heck is this that's looking at Jerome? What's that about? And like, he got to be aware of his surroundings. I have been nervous for Jerome, y'all. Okay, just with the way that he went off. And also, if you notice, since this season started, it's been all about him and Louis being in love, things going good for them, and their relationship being good, and them being all into each other. And we know how that usually goes when they keep highlighting that and showing that. So for some reason, I'm like extra nervous with Jerome right now. Like, please protect Jerome. I don't want to see anything happen to him. And by the way, he be acting his behind off, baby, okay? But nonetheless, he's telling him, Dejan Hall, and he's basically, describing him. And he was like, I see so many people, that name is not really like ringing any bells for me right off the hook. I hope that you find him. I'm sorry that I couldn't help you with that. But he does, like I said, wrap up his hand. At one point, he even asked Jerome where did he serve, and he tells him that he served in Korea. And Jerome is just like, you know what? I'm sorry that I wasted your time. I appreciate you taking the time out and, fixing my hand. And he was like, I'm going to go ahead and go. I'm so sorry that I interrupted your lunch. And he tries to offer him some money, but the doctor's like, no, I don't need, that, I'm good. But the doctor does tell him and recommends him that he go ahead and get some counseling, okay? He can see that there is some trauma there with Jerome, and that he probably has PTSD, all right? And so I thought that was really interesting that the doctor said that, and I definitely do think that, everybody should get counseling and some form of therapy, right? But that was it. He was just telling him he was sorry that he couldn't help him with his friend and that he recommends counseling. And so then, he tells him that I could tell you've been through a lot. There's no shame in admitting it. And he was like, they offer it free for here. And so, Jerome was like, okay, and he got ahead. And so as he's walking out and going down the hall, this guy comes up talking about, oh, Jerome, I thought that was you. I recognized you and remember me. I was Peach's friend. And one time we was at this party together and the guy fell in, the empty pool and all this other stuff. So then Jerome is like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember you. He's like, oh, yeah, there was blood everywhere, whatever the case may be. So he's asking him if he's seen Peaches. And he's like, yeah, I could take you to where he's at or where I last saw him. He was saying he had been with him last week. But he was like, you're going to have to go ahead and give me at least 30 minutes so I could finish up, this meeting I got to do. And we're seeing Jerome sitting in the meeting and listening to these different stories that these vets are telling. And you can literally see it get into Jerome and him kind of like almost having tears come to his eyes. And I was like, oh, like, Jerome is going through it himself too. He's mad about, of course, feeling betrayed by Peaches, but he's also dealing with his own traumas, okay? And so I thought that was interesting. We finally get to this meeting with Leon and Kane, and Kane is like, oh, well, you took a chance coming here, whatever the case may be, to meet me. How you knew that, I wasn't going to try to do anything? And Leon is like, well, I just tried to give you the benefit of the doubt. You said, don't come with no guns and we'll have this sit down. And Kane was like, well, I guess we will see. Leon, of course, starts to tell him the whole story about Kev. Like, yo, you don't know, everything that happened. He was like, we didn't mean to, do anything to him or whatever the case may be. He actually went behind our backs and, still went and messed with the daggone, Mexicans. And, of course, Kane is like, oh, that's not the way I heard it, and trying to say, whichever way he feel that things went down. And so, again, which this is what I have wanted them to do last week, is to tell him, like, listen, that's not what happened, but I know that they was in the heat of the moment and he wasn't really trying to hear it. So again, I can respect that Leon is like, let me go ahead and try to have this conversation with him before, we go any step further. And so, he's telling Kane, like, I'm trying my best to talk to you because at the end of the day, you were like family to me, okay? I looked up to you and all of that kind of stuff. We did have a good relationship, and that is why I'm trying to give you, the benefit of the doubt, and I'm trying to make this right. He was like, before we kill each other, at least let me tell you what really happened. And so he was telling Leon, like, he don't want to hear no excuses. And Leon was like, it's not about excuses. It's about the truth. Kev betrayed us, okay? He went behind our backs to the Mexicans. And he was like, he did that because he wanted revenge for Delroy. That's what Kane was saying. And he was like, well, the Mexicans killed Delroy because he was in their territory. And at the end of the day, they was ready to kill, all of us and wipe us all out, including you up in jail, okay? And so, Kane just looking like, yeah, all right, whatever, And he was like, but we didn't mean to kill him. We was just trying to stop him and it went wrong, and that we got to be responsible for. We did that. We messed up and we own that fact. You know what I'm saying? And so he was like, so now the problem is we have you, and it was just me, you, and Franklin. We were a family and we, think of you like blood. And so, of course, Kane is laughing at that like, yeah, okay. And so he tells him, look, when I was little, I looked up to you. I wanted to be just like you. You know what I mean? I seen how you was cool with everybody, how you had all the fine women on your arm, how you handled shit, how you thought. And I always respected it, and that's how I wanted to be, But the only thing was I had a damn temper, and I was always getting into trouble, okay? And so Kane was like, yeah, that's definitely true. He was like, you was raging lawless Leon, And so, we couldn't tell you shit. But now he sees that there's a difference in Leon, and he was like, Kane was telling him, you don't do that to family. And Leon says, yeah, and I can never forget that you were family. And that's why I'm here sitting talking to you. And he was like, let me, show you that respect and help you and your family out. And he was like, we could give you an endless supply. We could make this work. We could, pay our dues. And so Kane is talking about, oh, now you want to talk about business. That's what we doing, Leon. He was like, wow, I figured it would Franklin be here, trying to make the peace. He was like, wow, something really has changed in you, hasn't it? What happened, man? He was like, you know, what got to you? And he was like, you really been through it, huh? And yes, we know that Leon has, okay? And he said, I would have took a bullet, instead of Kev if I could. I promise you that, And he was like, I ain't got nothing left. And, so he said he want to go ahead and squash this beef. And we didn't really hear, what Kane's answer was at that time. But he basically was like, I'm just here trying to give it a last shot and let you know what's what. So I did respect Leon doing that. But like I said, I don't know how great that is going to work out. All right. And so, you got Jerome driving back with, Peach's supposed friend. Like I said, he sat through this meeting and you could tell that everything they were saying was, excuse me, y'all, was really getting to him or whatever. And, Peach's friend tells him he needs 100, okay, saying that the guy won't let open up for nothing. And he was telling Jerome that he could go ahead and sit in this garden. And even as, Jerome is sitting in the garden, which was a beautiful garden, by the way, it just looked like his mom was in a different space. Like, Jerome is ready to go down a different path now, just like Leon is, right? And remember that Jerome never really wanted this to begin with. He only did it because of Louis. And so we definitely are starting to see slowly but surely a disconnect with Jerome in this whole thing, right? We got Franklin sitting and his mom comes up to him and she's asking him, he's asking her, I should say, where she's been. And she was like, she was running some errands, she was taking care of business, making collections at the Arlington place and all of that good stuff. And he was like, you should have security with you. And she's telling him, oh no, they're not after me, Franklin. And she was like, Veronica's out handling the banks. He's like, yeah, she's working on it. And, she's up to speed with all the transfers and all of that kind of stuff. And so he was like, did you say something to her? And she was like, about what? He was like, about Teddy, about anything, about this life. And so she basically kept it real and was like, yes, I did. Okay. And he was like, well, which was, why would you come in and start saying something and causing problems for me or whatever the case may be? You just go behind my back. And she was like, go behind your back? He's like, yeah. And then she's basically like, look, she could have got shot, anything could have happened or worse. And he was like, she's telling him she needs to face that reality. And he was like, Mom, what are you doing to me? She was like, I'm trying to help you. He was like, really, if you want to help me, okay, what you could help with is taking the burden off my shoulders, helping with the downtown property, helping with the banking, or just freaking keeping the peace. All right, that's the help I need you to do, Mom, not making things worse. All right. And so Sissy, I don't know, girl, you better get it together, boo. Okay. And Sissy gets her attitude and goes walking out of the office. All right. But I mean, Sissy, yeah, that wasn't the best. All right. And so, like I said, Jerome was standing in this garden for a minute and, he's seeming like he's really going into another space and thinking or whatever. You got Miss Louie sitting at this damn, some type of restaurant. And, you got Buckley coming talking about, oh, this is a new location. What's this about? This is real cute. And Louie is basically telling him, that, passing him this damn paper talking about, I got some info for you. Remember, he's been wanting her to give him somebody for the longest, right? And I had a feeling she was going to do this. But my thing, Louis, is you out of pocket. Franklin told you to give him a chance and let Leon talk to this guy first before you do anything. And then if it didn't work, y'all would go ahead and do what what y'all got to do. I'm the first one to always defend Louis and stick up for Louis. I know that there's times where she came with really smart moves and they didn't listen to her. And I would be like, see, y'all stupid. Y'all supposed to listen to women. We know what the hell we talking about, okay? But in this case, I think Louis is making a big mistake. I think this could either end up backfiring on her or more than likely Jerome. For some reason, y'all, I just feel like something is coming to Jerome, the way they have really been kind of emphasizing on him and all of this stuff, and especially what we see happen later in the episode. So I'm nervous for him, okay? And Louis is giving the information like this, the name, this, the address, and all this kind of stuff. And of course, they're going back and forth with the amounts that he want to be paid. First, he was trying to say like 250,000 or something like that, because initially he had told her that she would not have the type of money that would cost. Because he was like, "Well, what you want me to do? Arrest him?" She like, "No, okay, we need him gone." And so he was like, "Now that, of course, I don't think you got that type of money." And so at one point she had got up, like she was gonna leave, and he was like, "Hold on, hold on, hold on." And she was like, "All right, then stop playing games with me and talk right," when she sat back down. And so they kept going back and forth like 100, 75, 75, because she was saying 50-50. And so then they agreed to like 75 now, 75 later type of thing, which would come up to 150,000. And she was like, that shouldn't be hard or much to kill some dude that just had basically finished getting up out of jail. All right. And so they are basically trying to come to this agreement. And I'm like, "Louis, I hope that you are doing the right thing." He tells her he's going to go ahead and look into it. And she's basically like, "Don't take too long, beautiful. And thanks for the drinks." And then she got had to leave. You got, Teddy showing up, Oso's in there, counting the inventory, I guess, and he hears a noise. And when he comes to the front, it's Teddy with all this different type of recording, devices all over the table, everywhere, from phone tabs to receivers and all this other stuff. And he's telling Oso, "I'm probably going to need your help, because this is a lot of stuff here, okay? And I would not be able to plan everything myself." And then Oso's like, "Franklin, And so Oso already know how Teddy moved from the conversations that him and Franklin had, and from the fact that Teddy left his behind. So I don't think Oso is looking at him in the same way either. But nonetheless, he does give him an apology, talking about, everything happened so fast, and I just jumped up and got up out of there, but I shouldn't have left you like that, and I am sorry, all right? And so Oso doesn't even answer him, but he was telling him, "I'm glad you okay." Oso basically just walked away. So I don't know what role Oso is going to play in this, y'all, okay? But he's telling him he got these transmitters, these receivers, all these different type of recordings, and these things that he wants to now phone tap Dan Franklin. So this is going from bad to worse at this point. You got Sissy sitting at the desk, and she looks in her bag and has some type of tape recorder thing in there. And then she's looking at the office. So I'm wondering if she's on to Veronique too and not trusting her either, and she wants to put this in there for her, or is this something with Franklin? I don't know, y'all. Put it in the comments. Tell me which one y'all think it is. But we did not see her, put anything anywhere. We never even seen what she did with that pen either, okay? Because if you still got the pen, then what the hell would you even need a tape recorder for? We just see her close the drawer back up and then continue to work, all right? You got Franklin, Leon, Louis, and Jerome meet back up, give her updates, and Kane is gonna be down for this. She's saying, so now y'all gonna have him working for us and making money. And Franklin is like, money makes the world go round. We're gonna look out for his family, and all of that kind of stuff. And so she gonna talk about some, "Oh, well, it sound good. If it's peace in the land, then that's good enough for now," which is basically bullcrap, Louis. You know what I mean? You should have just kept it real if you gonna go this damn far, but that's the route she going. You got Jerome going up with this guy into this house that he's claiming Peaches be at. And of course, when they get inside, because the guy was knocking, he wasn't getting an answer at first, and he's like, "Oh, everybody's probably out of it." And they go ahead and walk in. They all must be down, he says. And, when they start to walk in, Jerome basically pulls out his gun and puts the gun to his head and tells him, "Look, I know when a game is being played on me, I am the game." I was like, I know that's right, Jerome. Okay, at this point, you could see that everybody in the house is junkies. They all passed out. They got these damn belts tied around their arm. A bunch of them got needles still stuck in their arm. I'm like, my God. And so, Jerome was like, what is this? Why would you bring me here? He was like, you trying to tell me that Peaches is a junkie? And the guy was like, yeah, you didn't know. He was like, seriously, you never knew. And so, if this is true, then Peaches apparently is a junkie. This is where he's been hanging out. He's been getting high. He's been shooting up. Okay. And we know that back then, a lot of them were like sharing needles, and they were, also reusing the needles. You could see that this one guy had like 10 different spots in his arm where the needles was, you know, put into different places, and he literally took the needle out and put it back in and was still sitting there like, ugh. And I'm like, wow. And so, we're finding out that this is apparently what Peaches was turning to take away his pain. And when, Jerome sees this guy take the needle out and put it back in his arm, you actually see one tear fall from his eye. And Jerome says, what a waste of life. And this really seemed like it just genuinely broke his heart. So apparently things got so tough for Peaches with, you know, just life and just seeing everything that was going around him. I think the straw that broke the camel's back is probably when he saw, Franklin kill the other friend. I can't think of his name right now, but I know at one point Louis mentions him. And I think he said, let me get this money and get the hell up out of here. And it's a possibility that he still could have had the HIV too, especially with him sharing needles and all of that type of stuff, because we know that is something that did go on within that time. To be honest, that made me sad, and it made me a little disappointed that that was the direction that they basically ended up taking the Peaches character. I didn't really see why that needed to be done, but I guess so, right? Part of what was happening at that time nonetheless. And so we get Teddy with Parasia, and to be honest, I don't give a damn about Teddy. I really don't. He's trash, and all I want to see is when they are ready to finish Teddy off as far as I'm concerned. But we get this point with him and Parasia. She's basically fixing his wound, stitching up this wound that he has on his shoulder. She's telling him that he was sold by the book and it was sickening, but it was kind of sexy. Of course, her crazy behind is turned on with him. She's like, but now. And he's like, now. And she's like, yeah, now, you're just some grumpy asshole. And he basically says to her that she's just a bitch, And so basically she was like, I think you kind of like that. And then she's like, oh, you do, and rubbing on him and all of that. And, basically ready to get it in. And he talking about some, oh, well, what about my stitches? And she talking about some, oh, I could always fix them again. Of course, she gets turned on by pain and seeing blood and all that kind of stuff. So it ain't gonna bother her. All right. And so that was that with that. You have Louis meeting up with Jerome and saying she won't make a move with Buckley, unless he tells her that he's okay with it. And he says for her to go ahead and do what she needs to do, that he got her back and he will protect her. And Jerome, again, I'm worried about you. I think Louis is about to put your behind in some serious mess. Okay, especially since right after that, Jerome go ahead and say, he want to get back to his original plans that he had. He want to get back to the neighborhood. He want to get back to his people. He want to follow his dreams. Like, he's had it. He did what she wanted to do. Now he want to do it his way. And, this is what he needs to do for himself. And she's basically, saying, still can't believe, he's saying that he still can't believe Peaches was a junkie. That's still blowing his mind and still hurting him. And she said, well, if you think about it, it's actually starting to make sense, because after he saw what happened to Rob, that was his name, that he probably started making an exit plan. Okay. And of course, like I said, you got Jerome saying, look, God did this and did that for all of y'all. Now it is about me. I need to go ahead and do what I need to do. Because at one point, Louis tells him that she's worried about him. Should she be worried about him? Is everything okay? And he was like, no, you don't need to be worried, but it's definitely time that I make some changes. Okay. I need to go ahead and put myself first. I need to go ahead and get back to what, I originally wanted to do. And I'm here whenever you need me, but I need to reconnect with my shit. I want to do for the people in my hood. I want to get back to the Jerome that I was supposed to be, and I want to get back to my original plans. And when people start talking about doing good and getting out the business and all of that, we already know what usually happens, okay? So that makes me even more scared with freaking Jerome. And he's saying that he got to do something with his life. And so you could tell that he really is at the end of his rope with this. And so she says she's all for it and that she wants to see him build his life, and she would rather see him do that than chasing Peaches down and following him to Burma or wherever else. And he said, well, shit, maybe we could go there for our honeymoon. So she like, huh? All of a sudden, Jerome gets on one knee and proposes, y'all. So that really got me like, yeah, some shit gonna happen. And mind you, I thought him and Louis was already married, okay? But they apparently wasn't. And so he was like, you know what I want, you know what I gotta do, and this is, what part of what I want to do, and I want to spend the rest of it with you, and let's make it official and all of that good stuff. I love you. And so she says yes. So now we got, done planning the damn wedding, I guess, right? And that's gonna be the next step, at least that they think they are going to have. And I just see this ending bad. We have Veronique saying that everything is good, they're gonna make it. And I'm also like, I don't know, because we know everything don't always, run smooth just because you be like, oh, it's all looking good now. When it be looking too good, we got to be careful, right? And be paying attention to everything. But of course, that does make, Franklin happy when she tells him that, yes, she was able to go ahead and get that done. All right. And so, Franklin says they're going to lock every down so they're going to be safe. He was like, you better off staying at the spot. She says, I know. And, he was like, how's the cramps or whatever, checking up on her. She said it's not as bad. It calmed down. And she was like, her nausea is coming back with a vengeance. And so she was like, what about the threats against you? And he basically was like, Leon has handled it and he's going to work with us and all of that. And so she was like, well, why would he do that? And he says, because he wants to take care of his family like I do. And so she was like, And she says, well, you believe him, And then he was like, it's the best play for now. And so she says, well, we do deals all the time and some, can be done in bad faith. She was like, your mother told me that you deal with liars. Well, her mother rather told me you deal with liars accordingly because they usually, sus and it will usually come out. So I'm like, you got Teddy meeting with this guy and he's saying, that he could trace anything back that he wants him to for anyone. He was like, his cover is layered deep, and he was like, he said, what I need you to do is move quickly as possible, get bank account numbers, passwords, records, previous transfers, identity confirmation and all of this. And he was like, can you get all of that? And so the guy says, yeah, he only needs 24 hours to make the necessary, changes, and he could change the routes and everything. He was like, you just got to let me know in advance and nobody will ever know what it is done from. So I'm like, so you over here trying to change freaking all of Franklin money over? Like, what's really going on here with that part? Put that in the comments too, y'all. But I'm just want them to get rid of Teddy ass already, okay? And then finally we have Buckley meeting up with, Louis. And he's saying, if your boy's not trying to hide, he's out in the open, we could get him, but they're going to need a couple of weeks to go ahead and set everything up. He's like, I need you to tell me if you are really sure that this is what you want to do before I go ahead with this, and tell me. Then he looks at her hand and he's like, hold up. He was like, you forgot to tell me something, because of course there's a ring on her finger. And he says the same thing, like, I thought you two was already married. She starts laughing. He's like, oh, congratulations. He was like, nah, for real, that's real, talk. Marriage is a beautiful thing. And he was like, I had a couple good years with Sharon or whatever the case may be. And he was like, besides, to be honest, it turns me on even more when it's a married woman. I find that even sexier. And so she like, look, we ain't here about that. Just tell me about the job. Okay, get to the point. And he says, well, the only thing I really need to know at this point is if you are really sure about this. Okay, let me know before I go ahead and put things in motion. And Louis says, yes, do it. And I'm like, Louis, I really hope you know what you're doing, because like I said, This makes me so nervous. I do not see this ending well. I know that Louis already got shot last season, and I just got a feeling this season it could be falling back on Jerome, y'all. So I don't know. Y'all tell me what y'all think. You know, we got Jerome going back to his whole old house, and we got I Can't Stand the Rain coming on at the end. That's my jam. And that was how the episode ended, y'all. Tell me what y'all think about this. Did y'all like it? Did y'all not like it? Where y'all see it going? Do y'all think that Kane is gonna turn on them, or do you think that Louis' plan is gonna backfire and mess all of them up and put them in even a bigger hole? Are you seeing the danger that Jerome is in as well? Put it all in the comments. Let's discuss. All right. Till next time. Toodaloo. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. All right, y'all.